What's up, guys? WhoNeedsMeta here. We are finally making our first ever tier list video. It took 5 years of this channel, 5.5 years of this channel, kind of being revitalized, and why not do it with the format I started playing first in 2017? So a little over 8 years. I've been playing REDU. We called it just September 12 at that point. We did a little bit with Abyss Rising in the format, sometimes without Abyss Rising, and just kind of settle on without. And it seems like the wider community picked that too, so that's kind of cool. It's like, yeah, you got 3 YCSs, I think, at least in North America, where we had results to go off of. So with essentially the same card pool, you get Atlanteans at Providence, and that's like, you're not wrecking anything by including Atlanteans. They did make the tier list, the bottom of the tier list, but they didn't make it. Spoiler. So let's just kind of get started. First, 6 Samurai. I have 6 Samurai in C tier. I'm just going to openly say nothing goes in S. I don't think this format has anything that's good enough to go in S. You can argue wind up. I don't think so. We'll get there when we get there. But I just don't think there's anything that's broken. This isn't in like YouTuber cope of, look at how many decks are in my format. Please play my format. I really love my format. That's not really what we're doing here. I don't want to be that guy. But at the same time, I don't think there's anything that's S tier worthy in this format. If there was, I promise you I put it in there. I love Meadowlands format. Mermails is the best deck. I'm not going to hide that. I just happen to like it. So yeah, 6 Samurai. The deck needs 2 monsters to really do anything. You need to be able to make something. That's kind of the big thing where you get your 2 counters on United and Gateway. You need 2 monsters to search and all that stuff. So you really need 2 monsters to kind of do anything, which is why you're seeing more and more builds with like multiple double edge. But I think the deck is really good, especially like with like if there's not a lot of like monster popping in the format. I just think the deck is pretty good. It's not great, but it was better than I thought it would be because I played it in March 11 again when you have your 3 Xians. But this is really like the asceticism era because we have Excalibur and Blade Armor here. So this is kind of where we are. Shadow's cool because it can get you counters, and that also works for that. So and you have Xian, you have the Naturia Synchros as well. So you have a lot of negates. So that's why I like the deck, why I think the deck is positive. I just think the deck, like once it has its board broken, it can't top deck out of that very well, like outside of like double edge being able to make another thing, but you struggle once you run out of guys. And of course, Gateway is your blowout. Dark World next. I have Dark World in A tier. I think it is one of the best decks in the format. It does struggle against the sideboard, and the mirror is obviously like disgustingly bad. Like that's not. It's like do you want to play the Final Countdown mirror, which is not. I didn't even tier that deck, to be honest with you. I don't want to go there. But yeah, I think that Dark World is really good game 1. I think Trance Archfiend opens a lot. I think that card helps the mirror. I think if you see this deck more and more often, you'll need cards that allow you to discard but not your opponent to play the game. So I think like side decking additional copies of that card. And then of course you have browse like a tour guide target, so you can take advantage. So like the hit to tour guide isn't as bad. You see some builds not even to go that way and just go pure Dark World so that your drag downs are always live. But yeah, I think that Dark Worlds is an A tier deck, and I think it's really good. Next up, I have Dragunity. The reason I decided to include it is because you have a tomb, so the level 6 plays with your rank 6. People have explored that. I think there's like Root of the Wind Spirit, I think, and like you have Soul of Zephyros, and it's a very Exceed based, but you can like summon Red Med from the deck, so that one hit to Red Med, but I have it in D tier just because of how hard it just loses to hand traps, and you don't have the Dragon Ruler's Red to like a fallback on. You don't have HTS Sahemoth, which was a big play later when you play like Dragunity Rulers, where if they max C the Phalanx on the Ducks, you just give them 2 cards, and then you can like banish whatever they got. Obviously, that was like a counter to Blader, and Blader's not in this format, but I think having that card at least allows you to have something that's a little bit more solid to stand on when you get max seed, and you just don't. So yeah, that's why we have Dragunity. Gravekeeper, I wrestled between B and C, and I settled on C tier. Bottomless being more prevalent in the format means you have to play 2 Descendant. Tengu people will know about the 1 Descendant play because you don't need more than 1. You're essentially just digging for World Tribute with your upstarts. Again, in that format, you have 3 duality, you have your 3 upstarts, you have your 3 Wonder Wands. This format, you only have 2 dualities. You don't fully commit. I haven't seen anybody attempt the Wonder Wand, or let's see, have success with the Wonder Wand. There may have been attempts with the Wonder Wand, but as far as I know, it hasn't seen any success really. But I think the deck still is good because you have a sizable back row. Unlike a couple other decks that you'll see, like the set deck, which is like the Geargia, having an issue with being able to like play torrential, you don't, because you can set spy is obviously bad, but recruiter is fine with torrential, so you can like still plus off, like if you want to get in there or like set a guy, you're still able to like safely set a back row if you draw torrential. Where that deck, I don't even think so. You just have more options for back row, and then I Rite of Spirit and stuff for recursion and all that. So I think the deck's good. Windups, this is the best deck in the format for right now. I've talked with some players who are better than me, who play the deck pretty regularly, and like my buddy Corey, who got top 16 MWC, he said he plays this format more than he plays Edison, and he said the more I play Windups, the worse I think the deck is. I'm obviously not going to sit here and shit on it and say it's like bad or anything. I will say the deck struggles if you go shock lock combo and the board gets broken. If you're at a locals, typically know everybody in the room and you know what to call with Shockmaster if you go that route. If you go the Shockmaster combo turn 1, I don't even know if that's the best route that you should go when you open Magician Shark. Because like I said, if you get your board broken, then you really have Pot of Avarice double rat left in the deck to like really make plays. To obviously you have searches for it, but like you're not like out of the woods and you don't have all the monsters and stuff. That's the same issue that Samurai has as well, with being able to break, like have your board broken and being able to recur. Windups has a similar issue. It also feels like Maxi can be a turn skip, and Valor on the boat obviously hurts. Like the more people play this format, you're gonna like Valor the boat. Like most of the time, at least in my experience, it's Valor the boat carrier, and so that's So once people learn how to play against the deck, but then again, the deck is also kind of resilient to Valor, where I tried to Valor the boat, and he goes Chain Rabbit, target the boat, banish it to dodge Valor. So I was like, oh, that's really cool play that I didn't see coming. So, so Rabbit can do that to help you play around it, but Maxi is almost like a turn skip. So it depends on how popular that card is and what's really in the meta, because Valor versus Maxi, if you only have room for one, it's kind of a toss-up. Heratics I have in C tier. These aren't going to be in like any order, I don't really think, unless you really want to put Windups as the best deck. But Heratics, I've also played this deck quite a bit. I really like the OTK potential. Essentially, you're looking for 26, 26, 28, whether that's 2 Gaia Chargers and a Force Focus, 2 Gaia Chargers and a Red Med, 2 Gaia Chargers and Force Focus, Red Med, or Scrap Dragon are your 3. I will say that 3 Birdman is definitely the truth. I know, like, back in the day, people played 2 Birdman, I think. I know I started with 2 Birdman. I was like, dang, this card's sick at 3. So playing 3 Birdman has helped the deck. I also don't really care for Curse of Dragon. I know there's, like, back and forth of whether or not people play Curse of Dragon. I've seen lists top with it, top without it. I'm not a Curse of Dragon believer in the deck. I think it's an extra vanilla. I've seen the Exodius, I think it is, the Exodius card, where you can put those in your graveyard and then you can just dump it so you don't draw it. I don't know. It's fine. I do like that it resets everything, so if you don't OTK, but I've also been like, just win the game. Like, don't go for it unless you have it. That can kind of brick. Again, you're on 2 Seal now, which sucks. 2 Duality, which sucks. So your consistency is a little bit lower, which lowers your OTK potential, which you really need, because you need like 3 guys to really like go off. But once you can go off, it's like, it depends on what backer your opponent has. If they had, because like Mirror Force is at 2, so people might be trying that, especially because you're seeing less and less Fiendish Chain, so you're less likely to have your Tomb stopped, and that card might be Mirror Force rather than Fiendish Chain going forward. Although you're seeing also more and more Compulses, which is not very good for you because your Tomb goes back and you're like, dang, that was one of my 26s. So it's tough to go, and it's chainable to Sue as well. So there's that. But yeah, you're just going through late game game shots and trying to get there. There's no like late game stuff, so it struggles to like, if your board gets broken again, you can't really rebuild it. It's fragile. Hero Beat, I also went back and forth between A and B, but I think this is going to be our first B tier deck. Whether or not just standard hero beat or bubble beat is the better variant, that's up for the comment section to decide. I haven't really played the bubble beat version much. I want to. I don't think I'm going to be playing it at this locals. I think the next locals I'm going to try bubble beat for the first time. With like the variant that you can play like a couple call the haunted, so you can go like Stratos, Bubbleman, Special, Call, Bubbleman, and then you go your Excalibur, or you can get the second one. So essentially you go Stratos, Bubbleman, Special, Excalibur, Call, Bubbleman, Special, Blade Armor, and that's over 8. That's kind of a fun variant. I'm going to like try it and see if it works. The deck can like brick on no monsters, but your expanded rank 4 pool is great. Thunder King hasn't really been as prevalent in the meta as I thought it was going to be, which I could kind of understand. People are kind of like leaning in on their key cards. Even like Geargia is like playing it though as like a standalone monster occasionally. We haven't seen as much Thunder King as we thought, but like Hero Blast is like obviously like a good out to that. Your 2 E-Call, I don't think that really affects you. I think that like you're mostly playing 2. I'm also not a Hero Lives guy. I think a Hero Lives is okay. I haven't really gotten to test it. I've played against a couple of variants playing it. I think you just rather play more trap cards. Personally, that's just my opinion. I just think that the trap lineup in this format is good because we're expanded. We still have 2 warnings. We have 2 TTs. We have 2 mirror forces. So being able to play around and pick what's like the best traps for you again, then we have access to like Hero Blast. I think if you're on Bubble Beat though and you're doing the Call the Haunted thing, you're really only playing 1 Hero Blast. Or if you're playing like the standard Hero Beat deck where your guys aren't going to get like banished or like leave the graveyard as much because you're playing calls and stuff. You don't want to leave your guys in your graveyard so your calls are live, especially if you don't like have Stratos in the graveyard yet, because that happens in games. You don't always have the ideal setup. Yeah, you would play less Hero Blast, so you're not breaking on extra cards because Call and Hero Blast can kind of conflict every once in a while when you don't have the Stratos, especially if you haven't banished it for Miracle. All that good stuff. The Barbaros Machine deck. I had it in C. I was told to move it up to B. I've played against it a couple times and I haven't lost to it yet. So maybe that's like coloring my impression, but I think both times I was playing it, I was playing decks that were very heavy back row decks. And I know the deck isn't as resilient to back row as it could be from my understanding. Maybe the deck just bricked a couple times that I played against it. I was told that it has positive games 2 and 3. Like it's more resilient to the sideboard. It's much more resilient to floodgates. I was told as well by people who've played the deck more than me. I just wanted to get some feedback on a couple decks that I wasn't as familiar. This is the only deck that's on this list. Oh, besides the last deck, but we'll get there, that I don't own or have played a bunch. So yeah, that's just my initial thoughts of it. This is the one deck that's here that wasn't around at least by like 2012 or 2013, like that we can like retrospectively retrofit. Like the Chain Material deck, that's the last deck that we'll get into. That at least wasn't around. This is like a newer thing. There's like the Grand Soul decks and stuff like was normally with Psychics, which again we'll talk about as well. But yeah, this is like the one newer thing. And I think the Barbaros deck, it struggles with back row, but it apparently is resilient to floodgates. So that's just what I was told about the deck, and that's kind of what I'm going off of here. So it's like bad into like Geargia and Hero Beat and other maybe Samurai and Gravekeepers and stuff, but we'll see going forward. The deck has positive results, so what do I know? Inzectors I have in C tier. I really wanted to move it higher. I want this deck to be good. I want it to be good so bad. It just isn't as good as I think it can be, or should be rather. It's just, it can brick. You could see no monsters. You could see no starters. You need to see your starters. Dad is like really good in this deck. And MST, you can use like a combo extender, but the one Dragonfly is really hard because you're like normal summon Ladybug or whatever to like pop stuff with Hornet like feels bad. If you have double Ladybug, I play Gotchi in mine for like when you like end on stuff like that. It's just not what it was. And even when there were the format prior when you had 3 Dragonfly, 3 Hornet, I mean like yeah, I won Worlds because like we didn't have Wind Up Shark, Dalka, or Tour Guide. So it's like, what else are you going to play? So that's just where I'm at with that. So it's like, that was like a fake format. I just don't think the deck, I understand why it was hit. It needed to be hit. I just don't think, I think they did too, I don't want to say they did too much. I think they hit it right and they just made the deck bad. That's essentially what I'm trying to say. They made the deck very average, and I wish it was better, but it just isn't. It just isn't as good as it could be. What's next? Chaos Dragons. Chaos Dragons, I think, is a contender for the best deck in the format. Like I've talked about the 2TT, 2 Mirror Force. Light Pulsar doesn't care about those cards. It does suck when your opponent puts out monsters that are bigger than you. That's why I think the Barbaros deck has a good matchup into the Chaos Dragon deck. I think it has a good matchup into the Chaos Dragon deck. So so that's why I think Chaos Dragons kind of gets bumped down a little bit. But I think Chaos Dragons is a really good deck, and I think it takes advantage. I don't like that you have to play 3 Dark Flare because you lose the Chaos Sorcerers. I think you only played 2 in March. We don't play that format a ton. Nationals format. It's fine. It's fine. I do like that none of the summons start a chain, like summoning Red Med, Light Pulsar, BLS, Chaos Sorcerer, all that good stuff. I do like that none of those start a chain, so you can like play through Maxi, and Valor isn't like super great against the deck, really. So yeah, I think the deck plays through hand traps, and then it plays through some of the bigger like editions of the trap lineup where you get those extra cards. So yeah, I think that Chaos Dragons are quite a good deck. Dino Rabbit I have in B tier. It's probably one of the higher B tier decks, up with like Hero Beat. It's just like, is Guaiba good this format? Is it not good? It just obviously depends on the matchup. But you have to play because you need more dinosaurs. I think it's better than the Thunder King build. And you have to play 6 vanillas, which kind of stink. But you get to play like a bunch of good trap cards, and Lance is still a really, really good card. And you maximize on that card. You play 3 Lance. You get to utilize the 3 Lance. At least I play 3 Lance. 3 Lance, 3 MSTs. You need places to go through. You can maybe get away with 2. I also like that you're able to side deck Macrocosmos. You can main deck Macrocosmos. I don't really think you need to in this format. It depends on how it shapes up. We'll see. Because the card doesn't get rid of monsters on its own, and it isn't a monster on its own, obviously. So like, it doesn't simplify the game state to where you're removing cards off the board so that you can like do your game shots. It's not a negate or anything. It's not a removal card, and it's a control deck. So it's like you need it with other cards. So it depends on how effective the card is, and obviously it's just cheeks in the mirror. So let's see. We're on to the best deck in the format. Where we got Agents. Perfect. Agents. I have them in B tier. They're not actually the best deck in the format. I love this deck, but you have to play 3 bad vanillas. Like, at least like the vanillas in Dino Rabbit are like playable. Like, they have like decent stat lines. This one doesn't. They don't. They're level 2 500 deck vanillas. They are not good. But I think the deck is good. I think the triple call Christia Card Trooper variant is really sick. I'm personally a Trooper guy over the Chaos build. Again, you can debate variants in the comments. I actually prefer that because I don't want to get too into the weeds on it. But I do think that Agents are a good deck. I think the deck is good. This is probably the deck I played the most in the format. Really big fan. It's just a pet deck of mine. But I understand the deck has shortcomings. I do like that it can easily side deck Gozen Match, which is cool. It could utilize Thunder Kings, which is cool. Utilize Card Trooper again, which is cool, and then Christia. And I think Herald is also really like important to be able to like stop things that you don't want to go off. So being able to hit graveyard effects like Pulsar and any of the Dark World guys, it's cool. So that's important. That's good. Geargia, moving on. Again, I have this in A tier. I think there's nothing else obviously you can see down here is going to reach A tier. It's actually going to be all pretty much lower tier decks. But I think Geargia is good. Which variant you play? I did play against a friend testing like pure Geargia, like no Karakuris, no Machinas. I think the Machina variant is probably better. People say that like, oh, the Karakuri monsters are bricks. The second Karakuri monster is the brick. The second tuner. You need to draw 1 to do something because you're not special in it, unless you're going like flip, accelerator, Gigant, then search the tuner, and then bounce, and then special, and whatever. Like, unless you're doing that, like, you need to normal summon something. And in that case, your hand's already the nuts. But yeah, you need to normal summon a tuner to, like, start the playoff, unless you're going Birdman. So, like, the first Karakuri tuner is not a brick. You have to draw that card unless, again, your hand is the nuts and you're just trying to go off. I don't have a ton of experience with that variant, so I could be completely off base. I think that version, though, is not as good as Machina, because I think Fortress is I just think Fortress is a good card, which is what probably convinced me to put the Barbaros deck a little bit higher than I initially had it. It was like, I can kind of see it. Yeah, Barbaros is cool. Chalice is cool. Yeah, so Geargia, A tier. Lancer Frogs, I did get to play against this deck recently, and it's the only reason I'm tiering it, because, like, I actually think the deck can be playable. Obviously, I have it in D tier, but I think the deck is, like, somewhat playable. I think that being able to protect your Lancer is good. I also think Lad is a really good card. I just think not having 6 Swap Frogs. You have, like, your Dupe Frogs, and you have your Ronins, but you need to see Swap Frog early game, and you just, like, you don't have a substitute to summon it in this format. You just have the 3 swap. And then you have to search it with Dupe, and that's, like, passing a turn, and it's passive, and it's not as good. But you have Dark Mist and Phoenix to add to Gotchi, so you have more rank 2s. Another feather in the cap of agents as well. But yeah, you have more rank 2s to play with. And so, like, if your play, like, falls apart, you can always, like, go with a Ronin play and then make a Gotchi, and then you can use that to beat over stuff that your guys normally can't. And again, like I said, Lad is good, and Lad under Gotchi is even better. So if you can go Gotchi and then summon Lad, that's pretty cool. So yeah, I think the deck is playable, not good, but playable. Gadgets, I have in C tier for now. I think the deck is better than what it looks on paper. I've been testing this deck quite a bit. I tested Offering, and I thought it was bad, just to see. I also tested Gores, and I thought Gores wasn't very good. I didn't think Grand Soil, like, necessitated a spot in the deck. But I did test a few things and with it, and I've been playing it a bit, and I do think the deck is better than what people think. I've actually been I'm in a group chat with Marcus Hayden and Pudding, and Pudding also was a Gadget defender. So that's cool that I at least have one person in my corner saying, like, yeah, I think Gadgets are, like, a good deck. They're in C for now. If someone has success with them online, actually decides to try it, like, I don't even know if, like, on Format Library or any of their online events, if anyone's even attempted to play the deck. So maybe if there's, like, a smaller event, someone attempt Gadgets, maybe at, like, the Redo Rivals, I think maybe, but that was, like well over 100 players. So, like, the representation was small, and was if there's, like, a couple people playing it. But I think someone should, like, really give it a go. Knowing when to play the cycle is kind of tough, and when to summon the Fortress, and, like, that's kind of tough to dictate. I'm also testing Forbidden Lance in the deck to, like, be able to shotgun that card a little bit more. So we'll see how that goes. I haven't had a chance to play with it yet. That's what I'm going to be playing in my next Redo Locals. So I played it last week. I went 3-0, and I wanted to test something else. I beat Geargia. I beat Lancer, and I beat the Barbaros deck. So I wanted to try. I was like, we'll try it again. We'll try a different trap lineup and see how that goes. And maybe if we can keep having success, we can move the deck up. But as of right now, they're in C. Maybe Robbie needs to make another episode of renovating the gadgets. You know, maybe episode 54 is the key. Psychics, I have in C tier. The deck can play through Valor really well. It struggles with Max C. I do like that Telly, like, helps you a little bit. Like, 3 Telly helps you, like, with comeback plays and stuff. The deck can't really play back row, though, which sucks. Like, you don't really have any defensive cards. You do get to, like, play a bunch of Maxis because you have Grand Soils. I've seen some people talking about dropping Grand Soil to 2, but I honestly think that card is a house, and you kind of need it. Obviously, Wizard is weak to Valor, but the rest of the deck isn't. And then it kind of really sucks with Warning, because, like, Witch, it activates both times, so it activates again, so you can Solemn Warning the effect to summon the card back, and the card just stays banished. And you don't get to look at the banished card for Esper Girl in this format, which, like, helps the deck online, because obviously you can't police that, but IRL you can. So That's another ruling from that era where you don't get to look until I think March 2014 YCS Chicago, if I remember correctly. So yeah, E-Telly's kind of helped the deck play through back row, but the deck can struggle with like Maxis and stuff. I wouldn't say Maxi's a turn skip, but he also get access to the Notorious Synchros, which again, the Samurai deck does as well. I just think the Samurai deck probably has access a little bit better. Dragunity, or not Dragunity, Atlanteans, I saw Dragoons. Dragoons, D tier. I think the OTK is cool, but you have to play a brick and attack squad, and then you obviously you still play the Undying, so you have the bricks and the controllers. It does have a cool OTK, but again, it can't really play it defensively. Outside of like Dragon Ice is a hand trap because you can use infantry and marksman on your opponent's turn whenever they're special and stuff to like kind of interrupt them, which is kind of cool. But outside of that, yeah, I don't think the deck is very good. You can also we've tried it with Stratos, Ice Edges, and Miracle Fusions because Ice Edge will trigger, and it's a water and it'll trigger the Atlanteans. So that's like something to consider. I think we've profiled that deck before, like years ago, and it might be worth visiting if someone wants to try it. I don't know if anyone's actually tried the variant with heroes. I don't even think there's like a discussion of it in the Discord. But yeah, moving on to the next deck, the Ninja Rabbit deck, I also have in C tier. I think it's worse than regular Dino Rabbit. You get to substitute Guibus for Hanzos. It is essentially a deck. Super Transformation, it just depends on if you're playing like a deck that doesn't have a lot of high-level monsters or a deck that really does high-level monsters and wants to be able to put stuff away. Because there are variants that'll try to play the Simorg with like the regular transformation. But I just think that like going for like the Guibas and stuff is fine. It's just you use it as a board wipe. I haven't had a chance to play the deck. I've played against the deck, and the deck is actually kind of tough to play against. Like if you're on like certain decks, like I think it was on Agents at the time. No, it was on Heratics. So I had like level monsters that they could do stuff with that weren't like Exceed decks. Because like once you make it Exceeds, they have a hard time. So it's like whether or not you're playing an Exceed deck or not. But yeah, they can kind of stop you interim like in the middle of your combo and do stuff. The last deck, I'm actually going to pause and pull up some notes from a friend of mine who messaged me during this about the deck. I'm hoping that's what my message was. Okay, so the last deck is Chain Material, which I was going to originally put in C tier, but I was told to put it in B tier by a couple people. So essentially, it's, I can pull it up here. It's kind of like this, but there are better variants of it now where you don't try to play it as a hero deck. You don't need to play. You can run upstarts, you can run reckless greeds, and more importantly, you can main deck D-fissures. And that is to stop Veiler on the Electrum. You want a Veiler, if you have a Veiler or a Fiendish Chain, which Fiendish Chain, again, this card is seeing less and less play. I'm trying to when year is this deck for. So this is a relatively recent-ish deck. But if you look at some of the topping lists on Format Library, you'll see Fiendish Chain not in as many decks as you would think. Like even heavy back row decks, this card is kind of being replaced. So I'm worried about that with the Electrums because you don't want to Veiler this, you want to Veiler this, and I believe if I remember correctly, you want to Veiler the second one. I could be wrong, but I think you want to Veiler the second one. Someone who knows the deck significantly more than me can help. But you can main deck D-fissure to stop the hand traps. And you can obviously go with your card cards, go with your upstarts, and do your thing. And try and just lean heavily into the OTK and not into the fact that you're playing a hero deck that has a gimmicky OTK. Full on OTK. So I have played against this deck more than I'd like to admit. I will say if when they don't have the D-fissure, you want to, like I was playing Agent, so it's like if you can Herald, like Herald is just like it's better than Veiler in all regards there. So that's kind of what I'm getting at is like I think this deck might be better. I didn't talk about Chain Burn or Final Countdown or anything like that. I don't know how good those decks are. I think Chain Burn might be good. It might be okay, but we'll see. But this is kind of where I have the tier list. I'm interested to know all of your guys' thoughts, what I have wrong. Again, this is just my experience coming off of like, I've played this format for about 7 years now, which I understand is like a lot, but the format has changed a lot, and this is me trying to capture a snapshot of it at the end of 2025 and see what happens. And going into some bigger events, I think there's going to be another Redo Rivals coming up, and then obviously the big event, which we haven't announced yet, but there will be a bigger in-person event for this format. It has been announced in a few places. I'm waiting to talk about it in its own dedicated video. That's kind of why I wanted to make the tier list. I wanted to talk about this format and get people prepared who are planning on attending that event for what they might see. And yeah, that's just essentially the video. This is my first tier list. I don't know if I'll do more of them. I don't know if there's a format other than maybe Tengu that I know as intimately as this format. And as much as I've played, like we have a locals for this format now, like we can play this every single week. So I get to see it quite a bit. Yeah, but let me know what you guys think of the list, think of the video. Be sure to like and subscribe for more retro format content. And thanks for watching, guys.